What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is going to be your review for Queen Sugar Season 5, Episode 3. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. So, look, y'all. This episode was a hard episode. I'm going to tell you why. This was a hard... First of all, let me say, it was a very well done episode. But it was a hard episode because even though, literally, we still ain't even out of this whole COVID thing, and literally... the stuff that they're talking about, but what they're talking about last April. So what they're going through, it was like this time last year for us, and it's sort of like reliving it. And the way they went through it, you see, for some of us, it's going to hit closer to home than others. I've been blessed, thank God, that my job never stopped, and so that part of thank God, knocking on wood, all of the above. But some of the other things that went down in this episode did hit close to home. And it was really sort of hard to watch, but it was really well done. So I'm going to just go character by character because I think that might be the easier way to kind of do this. So we have Ralph Angel and Darla. Ralph Angel, he starts off very positive, which is a different Ralph Angel. Because, you know, Ralph Angel always saw the glass half empty, you know. But we start this episode off with him, and he's out in the land, and we see him calling his people, telling his people, listen, you know, I can't bring you on, but I got you next year. That's a promise. One of his guys told him that he was positive, you know, he had COVID, you know. And Darla, we see Darla getting in from the grocery store, child. They got the toilet paper. Remember, we had y'all remember me trying to find, I went 3 days in a row looking for some toilet paper, honey. And she was saying, listen, we might have to eat some weird combinations, but we good on food for a couple of weeks, you know. And she's talking to him about how, you know, about how bad things could potentially get. And he's telling her, he's like, listen, you know, the cane looks good, but I know that next year is going to be even better. I know that, you know, next year we're going to be good, you know, and the land's going to take care of us. And she says, well, did you ask Charlie for a loan? And he was like, I'm not running to Charlie. He said, you have to trust me, and I need you to have my back. You know, trust me, we're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. He said, I done seen tough times before, and we're going to figure it out. We're going to make it work. And she was like, okay, I got you. And she said, you know, hopefully I'll be back to work soon, and at least my paycheck will carry us for a while. He was like, cool. Well, she ended up having to get on a conference call and come to find out that her job is not going to open back up, and that she basically got a 2-week notice, and then she's going to be laid off. Now the good news is, I guess she'll be able to get unemployment, but we know that ain't, you know, that ain't everything. And Blue is trying to do the online school. They talked about the fact that the internet is bad out there because of where they live, you know, sort of out in the country. And, you know, Ralph Angel was like, well, isn't the school supposed to make sure that we good? Like, shouldn't that be the school's responsibility to make sure that we are on top of what we need to be on top, you know, that we have what we need so the kids can access? And she was like, theoretically, yeah, but, and that's something that we've talked about throughout this year. Shameless plug, go check out my other YouTube channel, Teach Project 2.0, with myself and El Teddy, and we speak on that. You know, we talk about that. Everybody wasn't ready. They should have been ready, but they weren't. And so we just see them go through it. And Ralph Angel ends up, you know, he ends up selling one of his tractors. He realized, hey, things are worse than what we thought they were going to be. And he ends up getting a job. He ends up becoming a janitor at a nursing home. And in that moment, if you go back to, you remember season 1, it's sort of like they've come full circle. And he even said that. He said, hey, my dad always struggled, and maybe this is just my plight. And you remember that his dad was working part-time as a janitor. He didn't tell anybody because of his pride. He didn't want anybody to know how bad things were as far as him trying to keep the land. But we found out after he died that he had been working as a janitor. And so we see Ralph Angel go on this job interview, and the woman who interviewed him, and it's at a nursing home, and she even said, listen, you're a farmer by trade. I know you used to being your own boss, you know, but this is our first priority here is caring for other people, and we need you to be compassionate and deal with what's going on. And he was like, listen, my daddy did this, like, and he told the story, and the woman hired him, and so he said, listen, I know it ain't making a lot of money, but it's more than what we was bringing in, and we just got to keep it, we got to do what we got to do. Now, ain't ain't Vi in Hollywood. Now, ain't Vi has started delivering meals. I'm not clear on whether she's doing like deliveries, like, I think she's doing a little bit of both. I think she's doing deliveries like people are paying her, and I think she's also delivering to people who may need it. So she's not open, but she's cooking and she's delivering, right? We see Hollywood's mom call, and she's being very cautious, not opening the door, not letting people in. He just sent her a package, and she let it sit on the porch for 14 days, honey. She quarantined the package, okay? But later on in the episode, Hollywood is talking to his mom, and she starts coughing, and he was like, "Yo, that don't sound good." And she said, "Listen, I'm fine. Everything ain't the Rona. Everything ain't the virus, and I'm good." But then he couldn't get her on the phone. He sent a neighbor to go check on her, and she's not doing well. But they never came right out and said that it was COVID. He said, "I've been checking the symptoms, and it don't sound good." And so he decided he's gonna drive her because his mom lives in Baton Rouge. And Aunt Vi told him, she said, "Listen, you gotta go check on your mom. Like, you're not gonna feel right until you see her for yourself, and you check on her for yourself." Um, um, and so that's kind of where we left that. Now, Charlie is doing her best, honey. She's doing her best to keep things going. She's trying to get the funding, trying to get help for the hospitals and all of that. And then, the guy that's on the city council that she don't get along with, the black guy, he talking about something. Well, we've seen that this people are violating the stay home order. We see your aunt is. We saw some activity over there by your aunt's restaurant, and she was like, my aunt is doing more to help this community than you are. Okay, so let's be clear about what's going on over there. Now, later on, she does have a conversation with Aunt Vi. She say, "Listen, people talking. Okay, this ain't coming from me. This coming from other people. You need to make sure that you all right, you on point, you doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're not violating the stay-at-home order." And she was like, "Charlie, I'm not. Like, I'm doing, it's contactless delivery. I'm following the guidelines." She was like, "Okay, because, they talking about calling out the health department and stuff like that, and I just don't want you to get caught up in no mess." And she was like, "I hear you, Charlie, but we all right. And Charlie is doing what most of us ended up doing during the COVID. Child, she had work clothes on top, pajamas and slippers on the bottom. Child, she was on them Zoom calls. Okay, Micah is coming home. Micah and his girlfriend them broke up. He said, "Yeah, she left me for this other guy." Now, I don't know if she left him as much as Micah might have pushed her away, because the way he was coming at her at the end of the episode last week, it was just came off very insecure and a little extra. But I don't know. I think it's more to that story than what Micah telling his mama. But he already got him a new little boo thing that he talking to, and she seemed to have a fixation on Charlie, which is very interesting because I'm sure his whole life he was used to people having a fixation on his dad. But the fact that this girl was like, "Your mother is a boss. I used to love how she used to sit courtside and always kept her head high and like loved Charlie." Okay. Um, um, Nova and her man. So Nova been quarantining with the cop, and she has actually set up deliveries to the community. She's got products, cleaning products and sanitizing products and things like that um for the community, and she's delivering them. Supposed to be contactless, but she done rolled up into Mr. Prosper's house. Now, listen, I told y'all last week, don't play with Mr. Prosper. Now, I think I see where we going with the Mr. Prosper thing, okay? I think I see where we going with it, okay? But Mr. Prosper is by himself alone, and he's quarantined by himself, and all he's doing is 24 hours a day watching the news. That is depressing. It was depressing, and it was hard. It was really hard for people who live alone, and Mr. Prosper is that guy. So Nova went by to drop him off some supplies and some food and everything. And he was very curt with her. You know, he put his mask on immediately, told her to, get, don't come no closer, just leave the food there. You know, she asked him, do you want me to put it up? But he was like, no, I'm good. I am good. And so y'all know that bothered, Nova. Not that she was offended by how he talked to her, but it bothered her about him being by himself in that house. And she said, this has just been really hard on everybody, that we have to stay away from each other. Like, it's just not natural that we are not around each other and we're not spending time with each other. And for people who, like Mr. Prosper, who's by himself, it's just even worse. And he's just sitting there taking it all in all day long in the news, just over and over again, about how many people are dying and how bad it is and so much. And so she ends up calling him. And it got to the point where he wouldn't even answer the phone. Like Hollywood, he wouldn't answer the phone. Hollywood called. So he finally answered the phone when she called. And she said, Mr. Prosper, I need to know how you doing. Like, really, I really need to know how you doing. And they had a good conversation, and he did kind of open up to her. And then she said, Mr. Prosper, I need your help with something. And she asked him for his opinion on an article that she was doing for her new website. It was COVID adjacent, but it wasn't about death. It was about how do we help people. And it actually was a really good idea. It was about putting some of the homeless in some of these hotels that had to close to get them off the street. And the hotels were closed anyway. And I was like, that actually ain't a bad idea, Nova. But you saw Mr. Prosper perk up because it almost gave him something to do. It gave him something to talk about that ain't had nothing to do with what it did, but it wasn't COVID like death. It was how do we help? And it was something he could do because him being elderly, and I'm sure he's scared as hell, he can't go nowhere. So it really, really was helpful. And so Nova, kudos to you, Nova. Kudos for that one. And that was it. Like I said, y'all, it was a hard episode to watch. So maybe my review is a little short this week because it was just a lot. And it was a lot to sort of relive. Again, I think it was well done. I think it was written really well. But it was just a lot to sit, to watch. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.